Hi, Adrian. Hi, how are you?
Oh, good, thanks, Patrick. Nice to be here and looking forward to our little conversation now.
Top notch, excellent. So thanks very much for taking the time to come on the show. I was going to kick things off with this question. How important do you think it is for learners to aim for a native speaker accent, or should they be encouraged to retain their original accent?
Good question. I think both are possible, but I think what's even more important is that teacher and student aim for comfortable intelligibility, both when speaking and when listening. I think that these days is really the aim of pronunciation work in the area of global English or global Englishes. So I would propose that that is the most important thing. And I think that if one chooses a good method, and the method for pronunciation that I propose reconnects learners with their pronunciation muscles so that they can, so to speak, escape the grip of their mother tongue pronunciation. And once they're in that kind of zone, the learner does actually have options to head towards a certain model, whether it's native speaker or movie star or singer or local hero or friends, or retain their own accent and head for another kind of zone. All of these are possible, but I think intelligibility is the new correctness, rather than some older form of precise correctness matching a certain esteemed model. I think esteemed models are fading out.
Okay, thanks. Well, recently on the podcast, we have been discussing native speakerism. And in your opinion, how is teaching pronunciation different for non-native teachers?
Well, first, I should say, it's a good question. I would say that every teacher should teach their own accent, native or non-native,
right,
and expose their students to multiple other accents. So people really are getting exposed to global Englishes, including those of their teachers. I think that the non-native teacher is very useful because they are probably inquiring into their own pronunciation, and to be a teacher who is inquiring into their own pronunciation will be of great help to their students. The native teacher, too, needs to be inquiring into how they speak and how they pronounce, and finding in their own mouths the sounds that their learners are making in order to be able to help them.
Okay. What would be some good ways of exposing students to other accents, other Englishes?
Well, first of all, in some cases you can say, look, listen to the other teachers in this school. Some of them speak different ways. Listen to them carefully and try to have conversations with them. But especially, of course, go online, where we can be exposed to so many different accents, whether they are websites which actually specialize in accents, but I'm not particularly thinking of those. I'm just thinking of those accents that you will meet simply through your normal work cruising about on the web.
Okay.
I should just say that I think in the end, native and non-native teachers are in the same boat because they have the same problem. Neither of them, by and large, and some people will disagree with me, neither of them really know from the inside what they're doing in their mouths. They may know it cognitive, they've read books and done certain kinds of courses, but that's not the point. They need to know it from the inside to actually feel what they're doing with different sounds and different bits of connected speech. Because if they could really feel from inside what they're doing, they could help their students. But teachers, by and large, don't have that inside sense of what they're doing. It's not very difficult to develop. It's very easy to develop. But our teacher training doesn't do that.
Okay, so what tips could you give for teachers who do find teaching pronunciation challenging?
Well, there's one simple way out, which is to get into your own mouth and feel what's going on with the different sounds and the sounds connected into words and word stress and the words connected into connected speech. And that's what I do in my intensive courses, and I believe that there are probably other ways that you can do that. Certainly you can go online and get an idea of this from the Macmillan series of videos that I've made, which are available on YouTube and I believe through One Stop.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's one approach.
Okay. Well, let's move on. I want to talk a little bit about conferences. And as a former president of IATEFL, what would be your advice for teachers going to conferences or, for example, wanting to present at conferences?
Well, I think conference fatigue is a problem, and there's so much going on. It is important to focus on what really interests you. And don't just fill your head with what people say, but look for your own curiosity and what really fires you up, so that you follow your own interest and feed your own interests at the same time.
Being selective, so to speak.
Be very selective, and people in conferences take it all very seriously, but it's just a show. Playfulness is the issue, and we should enjoy the playfulness of learning, I think. Are you talking also about people who are speaking at conferences?
Well, if teachers want to present, yeah. So if they're a first-time presenter, for example.
Well, one thing I notice, not just in the first-time presenters, is that people take 15 of their 30 minutes sort of by way of introduction and don't get into the meat of what they want to say until the last 10 minutes.
Right.
So I always say to people, start halfway through, just get into it.
Yeah, so get rid of the preamble and the waffle and go straight for the point, yeah.
Yeah, maybe give it one sentence, but then get straight to the point.
Excellent advice,
It's
great.
nervousness, I think, which holds people back.
I think you could be right, absolutely. But conferences and also qualifications can be quite expensive, and a lot of teachers are not in a position to be able to attend them. So how could they make more out of their professional development if they're not able to go to a conference?
Well, nowadays, I think we're all in a very good position regarding that, because we can join online. You don't need to attend an IATEFL conference in person. There's so much going on online, especially through the special interest groups. Engage with them, work with them, write for them. You can do that all from your own place in the world, wherever that is. But also I think that we can develop our own little learning communities around ourselves, depending on what we're interested in. Talk to teachers around us, and even if it's just a learning community of two, discuss what you're doing and experiment together, and gradually other people will perhaps join you.
Yeah, I think maybe kind of peer observations and
observation, a very good idea.
Yeah, that kind of thing's maybe a little bit left by the wayside. Sometimes people look for a bigger kind of more active solution, and then there's something on your doorstep. So
exactly.
Okay, well, yeah, we do look at a lot of professional development on the podcast, and I saw an interview with IATEFL Issues magazine, which you did, and you said that teacher development is the process of becoming the best teacher one is able to be, and a process that can be started but never finished. So how do you ensure that your teaching, and indeed your teacher training, stays fresh?
Well, I have a little mantra, which is like, see what's going on, do something different, and learn from it. And so whatever's happening in a class or in a training room, try to really see from different perspectives and different points of view what's happening without judging it. Just see what's going on from different angles, different versions of what's happening, and then try doing something different, not to improve it or for the hell of it, but because when you do something different, you learn even more about what's going on, and then learn from it.
Okay.
So and I think that I regard that as a kind of playfulness, a kind of useful playfulness.
So keeping a lightness to the approach, so not kind of
an exercise of curiosity, a way of actively being curious.
Excellent. So you've been in ELT for 4 decades now, I think, and there's been lots of changes in that time.
Yeah, that's right, there have.
Yeah, and what do you see as the future of teaching? Is there going to be kind of robots or apps and everything taking over?
Well, I think probably quite a bit of bad teaching could well be replaced by robots and apps, and it might be useful if it was. But technology will, of course, provide further extraordinary resources and amazing access and facilities. It won't be able to replace what good teaching provides, which is making meaning, making genuine interaction, providing real feedback, and above all, creating relationship, which is the area out of which language comes, making and feeding relationship.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point. Creating a rapport with the students.
Rapport, meaning, relationship. Yeah, exactly.
Very, very important.
But I think that, unfortunately, all teachers aren't good at this, and that's not necessarily their fault. It's because, in my view, our methodology doesn't really deal with it.
Yeah, is that to do with addressing classroom management, student motivation and engagement?
Well, classroom management, I think, is very much part of... It is, yeah, but when you consider classroom management, it is the mainstream of our methodology. But I'm talking about something beyond classroom management, which is relationship in class, facilitation rather than teaching.
Yeah.
It's the factor X that Earl Stevick used to talk about. It's something that is bigger and deeper than any methodology.
Yeah, and perhaps that's something that comes just through experience. It's not something that you can put on an initial teacher training?
To a certain extent. I don't know if you can train it, but it is possible for anyone to become a better listener. It's possible for anyone to become more empathic and to understand more of what's happening in their class and to make more use of the energy there, of the spontaneity of what happens in class.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
To be better at departing from there usefully from their lesson plan and then getting back to it.
Sure. Speaking of spontaneity, you're a jazz musician, and you like a bit of improvisation. How much of a role do you think improvisation plays in the language classroom?
Well, it plays a big role for everyone because we're all at it all of the time. We plan a lesson, but we don't know what's going to happen. And then we go into the lesson. And if you're sort of not comfortable with improvising, you sort of bash the lesson back into the shape of your lesson plan. But in so doing, you miss most of the energy that could be converted into learning. On the other hand, a lot of teachers are able to depart from the lesson plan, to engage with the energy of the moment, and then to get back onto the plan, which I think is a very useful thing. But I think our methodology does not really see improvisation. Improvisation is not really on its radar screen.
No.
It doesn't figure anywhere, in any of the categories of competence. And it needs to be addressed head on because it is what happens most of the time.
Yes, yeah. And I suppose coming back to something we mentioned earlier, that could be to do with peer observation. If you see a colleague who's very good at kind of addressing issues that come up in class, you can then take that away and use that in your own practice.
Yes, and of course you can. And what needs to happen is that people talk about improvisation, and there becomes a discourse of it, so that we can then get better at it.
Yes,
critique our own capacity to make use of what happens, to make use of the offers that come all around. Every student response is an opportunity for something slightly off the lesson plan.
Yeah.
How do we use that?
Yeah, excellent question. So finally, I want to ask you one more question.
Yeah.
And so if you could make one significant change to the world of ELT as it currently stands, what would that change be?
Well, one thing that comes to mind would be that you're talking about waving a magic wand, are you?
I am, yes.
Okay. Well, I'd quite like to wave a magic wand which created a methodology which was better at examining itself and critiquing itself than the one we have.
Right.
One which is sort of paradoxically really searching out its own blind spots, and that has a built-in alarm that goes off when it gets too distanced from what's really going on in learning in the classroom.
Okay. A self-governing methodology.
Yeah, I would like it to deal more with relationship, more with inquiry, more with reflective practice, more with the drama of learning. Learning as drama, drama as learning.
Excellent. Brilliant. That's a great answer. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. It's been really fascinating.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be on this Macmillan show. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to propose to people that they might like to tune in to One Stop amongst many other aspects of what Macmillan offers.
Yeah, thanks very much. And enjoy IATEFL and beyond, and good luck for the rest of 2017.
Marvellous.
Take
Thanks
care.
very much, Patrick.
Cheers, Adrian.
Okay.
Bye.